Welcome in to the October 18th edition of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer edition. I'm your host, real_G Warner, joined by no one. It's just yours truly, but we'll be going through the top five European soccer leagues, picking out a best bet from each of the leagues, and will, of course, be coming out with an ultimate best bet end of show. We're 5-2 to start the season, including Europa League, Champions League, and the league regular league play. Not slighting that, just saying. And I'll start with England, go through Spain and Italy, Germany, and France. And we'll come up with the best bet from each of the leagues. Going to cover each of the matches on this calendar as we're doing this early Friday morning here in Dallas, Texas. If you're not following me on Twitter, Patreon, YouTube, please do so at the real_G Warner. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, or at the real_G Warner on YouTube. We'll get you the full episode. And of course, I will turn on comments if anyone wants to throw something in here. Maybe I can go a little bit deeper on one of these games. I'm sure Joe Dollar wants me to talk about overs. And if there's anything else coming up or that comes to your mind, please let me know. But we'll be going through and hopefully get this done in about an hour. We'll start in England because that's where the money is. And we'll start with Tottenham hosting West Ham United in a London derby of sorts. West Ham United currently a 1.25 goal underdog on the road. All the juice right now at Bet Online. If you're not a Bet Online or SportsBetting.ag customer, please follow the links to the podcast description, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube. You can get some free money to sign up. Total here is 3.5, juice all the way to under as well. So we got West Ham United at 1.25 goal underdog and under 3.5, both catching a fair amount of the early money. And we might see a move down to 1 and to 3.25. I don't know that's necessarily going to happen because I feel like Tottenham's a pretty popular side that will probably catch a bunch of money, especially getting a plus 102 right now. One of those values is Bet Online, SportsBetting.ag, sister sites. They're giving you only 16-cent juice on the English Premier League. That's been happening for a while. So certainly if you're going to bet EPL, it's a great way to do it. In terms of where this number has moved, it looks like we've started out with a lot of juice to under 3.5 and to under 1.25, or the underdog 1.25, but not a ton of movement there. Some more juice coming in on West Ham, a little bit surprisingly on the road, and then also on the I guess we've seen some back and forth action on the total. West Ham, my takeaway from them so far is Julian Lopetegui is not going to be there a very long time because his style of play is really boring and reminds, I'm sure, every Iron fan of or supporter of David Moyes, who they just try to push out of the job despite a ton of success, including on a European stage. I think that won't go very well, but Tottenham are a different type of bird. They're gonna, I guess that's a nice joke for a 9:53 on a Friday morning, but that big giant rooster or whatever they have at the top of the stadium and on their logos will play a high line and will certainly try their best to suffocate West Ham United in their own half. What that'll allow is Jared Bowen on counterattacks or on just quick turnovers and runs. And that's a pretty good situation for West Ham offense that really needs any sort of offensive spark. I don't know necessarily that I'm a believer in West Ham doing well this season, / I am not one. But at this point, I got to say, as I move things around and this background setup so I see this a little bit better. I guess my eyes are getting old. Yippee. But I just, it's hard for me to believe that West Ham are going to continue to score goals at the rate they did against Ipswich before they went into the international break, which, speaking of, all these players that went internationally, I would expect the bad teams to have done 2 weeks of camp, which is probably a good thing for underdogs and for low expectation teams. But we saw multiple World Cup qualifiers in South America, which certainly impacted a lot of these teams that we're going to talk about today. And as we saw, Mickey Van de Ven, local to Europe, but playing in both matches for the Netherlands in this international break. But then other players going to South America is a brutal, brutal trip. And we might see some of those players missing these games. So lineups, as always, are essential an hour before each matchup, but trying to handicap who's going to be available is also important. I don't know that I have much of an interest in this matchup, despite spending a long, long time on it. I think it's probably one of those where I don't really like the underdog. I want to play unders, and I will not do that with Tottenham because they just don't play a brand of football that will ever make an under feel comfortable, especially with the considerable amount of stoppage time losers that I've seen so far this season. We'll move next to Ipswich hosting Everton. Ipswich, a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Everton right now, though, so we might see how long that sticks around. In terms of movement so far, I mean, it's basically hovered around the same price that I've seen. A very juiced Everton quarter goal underdog on the road. Total is 2.5. With some plus money right now, so we might see some number climbing there. Everton coming off a penalty save in a I think it was the Top Spiel equivalent from Germany would be the standalone late night matchup on Saturday in the English Premier League before the international break. Ipswich coming off a loss to West Ham was, I think, a surprise, definitely for me. And I got to say, Ipswich's defense has been questionable so far as a newly promoted side. I feel like they have set up in a counterattacking form or format or setup, and but I don't know their defense has been very good. They've made the patented newly promoted big mistakes, and I'm not really a believer in them as a favorite, even at home in front of what should be a great crowd. I think Everton, they've had big leads so far this season, have not been able to keep them, which is an issue, but I think shows a lot they're able to get them. We'll see about the status of Jared Brantwaite, their young center back, who's very important to them and basically makes it so James Tarkowski is not your best center defender, which we saw him give away a penalty last week just with a absolute brain dead takedown in the box for no reason with the play barely even started. I at some point, like your captain, longtime Sean Dyche player, like you got to think that he'll not make that mistake. But after such a long veteran type of career, it's amazing that he would be such an idiot throwing, I think it was Tonali from Newcastle down to the ground. With that said, I think we see a response there. I mean, I'd love to see, I don't know, maybe him not in the lineup, but I don't think they've got enough for that. Everton, that is. And I think we'll hopefully Sean Dyche has got into him a lot after that big mistake. And we have a motivated goalkeeper too, with Jordan Pickford potentially losing out on his place in the England national team. So biggest interest in that matchup. We got a big window of English Premier League matches here, but I'll go Everton getting that quarter of a goal. And I lean to under 2.5 as well, because I think that goes along with Everton on the road. We'll move next to Newcastle hosting Brighton. Currently Newcastle half a goal favorite. All the juice on Brighton on the road. Over under is 3, juiced all the way to over. And I guess it should be because Brighton have not really played great defense. I do think that there's a change to the Brighton team. Roberto De Zerbi, their previous manager, could not be more attacking. He's now at Marseille, and the new manager who came in from after I think winning the Schweizer Liga, the second Bundesliga in Germany for St. Pauli. I'm still not sure what he is. I feel like it's a Brighton type of club setup that he's kind of working with, but I just don't think Brighton is anywhere near as attacking as they were. I think Brighton deserved to be an underdog. Newcastle's been awesome at home. And I'm a little concerned about because Newcastle's home offense is significantly better than it is away from home. But I think that's my biggest interest here. Seeing a push on a 3 is valuable. And we might even see 3.25, which would certainly make me more interested in playing under here. I'll put Brighton under 3 on my list. I don't really like the side, though, I gotta say. Not a team I really like at this point, though they had a good comeback against Tottenham entering the international break, but then sent a lot of players away. So we'll see how they handle that. And the odds are back. At the real_G Warner patented yawns. Usually they're late night when I'm doing this at 1 a.m., but guess on both sides of the calendar or the clock. Moving next to Fulham hosting Aston Villa. Currently Fulham a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Aston Villa on the road. Over unders 2.75. Just a little bit more to under. Now Villa had a bunch of players go away internationally. Fulham might have had Raul Jimenez, but I don't know that they had too many. So that's a good sign for the Fulham side that I think have been playing well. Deserved a lot better against Manchester City, but got a late goal to cover the spread, which is nice. Especially after conceding late in a match that looked like it was going to the underdog and under, but at least the under ended up losing while the underdog was able to cover. Villa have been a very different team away from home, but are still a Champions League side and probably are going to be valued based on the competition that they play in for as long as they're in it, maybe the entire season. Unai Emery's defense has not been as good away from home, but I still believe in their ability to keep clean sheets at home, and I feel like they will have a better situation with Fulham. The high line's a little bit scary against players like Adama Traore, but as we've seen from the behemoth of a person, he's not able to put the ball in the net because he just can't finish. Pretty much should just be passing it, even if it's to no one, because it's a better chance than him actually shooting and scoring. I think Villa is the side I want here. It's very juicy at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if this does fall to pick them before kickoff. And I lean to the under 2 3/4 right now. Would love to get 3. I don't know that we'll get there though before kickoff on Saturday morning here in the United States. Move next to Manchester United hosting Brentford. Currently, Manchester United a 3/4 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over under 3 1/4. Juice really heavily to under, and it should be because I don't know why you would expect Manchester United to score. Or score much. And they're supposed to win also. So that makes you want to back, or makes me want to back Brentford as well, especially considering they score in the first minute every single match. That will come to an end eventually, but streaks run forever and only die once. So we'll see when that actually occurs. I just feel like there's too much value playing against Manchester United. At home, they get a 1 goal win, you lose half a unit. But I can't, it's really hard for me to see them scoring multiple goals. And maybe the international break will help them because they had so many underachieving players that weren't really getting out to their international teams. But at the same time, I mean, why would you trust some sort of change here, especially against a Brentford side that will be setting up to defend? Now, Brentford should have probably won this match last year at Old Trafford, but I think ended up conceding twice in stoppage time after taking a 1-0 lead to lose. I do think that will be on the minds of the players and will add some motivation or some desire potentially, or at least maybe get their team a little bit more wary of late goals. So that's certainly been a problem for Brentford, I think, based on limited resources, thus translating to limited depth. But I lean to under 3 1/4 and also to the road underdog. The last of this early window, or I guess second window of the English Premier League on Saturday, we have Southampton hosting Leicester City in a battle of newly promoteds, though a long-standing Premier League, I guess, places for years and years and years until 2 seasons ago, but came straight back up. Southampton a 1/4 goal favorite at home with almost all the juice on Leicester on the road. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice almost all the way to under. Now Southampton still look like a team that are playing out of the back in a way that they could get away with it in champions or in the championship, the lower second division in England, but have not been able to in the English Premier League. And that seems to be the philosophy of their manager, and that doesn't seem to be changing. Leicester City have scored a ton of goals so far. I've conceded more than I think Steve Cooper would have wanted, but ultimately is a pretty defensive manager now going on the road to a team that he's probably going to let have the ball and let make mistakes, as have the entire Premier League so far this season. I think that'll go well for Leicester. I don't think Southampton should be favored to win any match at this point, even at home and in front of a St. Mary's crowd that is usually very supportive and will certainly be on this Saturday return from an international break. I think Leicester getting a 1/4 of a goal is of interest. Also lean to under 2 3/4 in that one as well. Last but not least, we have Bournemouth hosting Arsenal in the big one Saturday night in the Premier League. Bournemouth a 3/4 goal underdog with all the juice on Arsenal right now. Over unders 2 3/4, and its juice is split actually both ways on the total. So no real indicator on which direction this one will move. So I think we saw early international breaks. I've been tracking this number. We saw Bournemouth as high as a 1 goal underdog, but that's been gone for a while since I've been tracking it. 3/4 right now of a goal, though I expect Arsenal money to hit as we get closer to game time. So if you like Bournemouth, I'd probably hang out and wait. As I would suggest with any Champions League team on the road, especially a near Premier League winner from last season. And Bournemouth, to me, this is a perfect spot for them. Coming off international break, they do have some internationals, but not in the same level that Arsenal will or did or do. And Bournemouth are a great underdog. I feel like as a favorite, they've been kind of beating my underplays a little bit because they score too much, which is great as an underdog, but not so great when you're playing against them as a favorite and want to see a few goals or as few goals as possible. I think Arsenal have been a little bit weaker defensively, maybe because they lost Odegaard to injury and he's been an important part of their pressure. And they played a different lineup without him and have tried to play more strikers really to try to score more goals, because I think where they're not even just trying to be creative, they're just going to try to bludgeon you with attackers. That does set them up worse for defending their goal, which is not so great for FPL, Fantasy Premier League plays, if you're on the Arsenal defense like I am. which has been very fruitful for a lot of last season and this season as well. But I think from a Bournemouth perspective, they're going to play the same game they always do. I'm a believer, disciple, I wish, of Andoni Iraola, former Rayo Vallecano manager from La Liga. And he's really what I want to back at this point in this league, which is, or really in soccer betting in general. Sits back, defends his own net, and then sprints forward on his counterattack and is able to find goals. Semenyo has been great for Bournemouth and amongst others as well. So I'm very interested in Bournemouth getting that 3/4 of a goal and also an under 2 3/4 in that matchup. Move to Sunday, and then we actually have a Monday match this week as well. Sunday, we have Wolves hosting Manchester City in the opener. Wolves a 1.5 goal underdog at home. Almost all the juice on Manchester City on the road. Over under is 3.25, and it's juiced slightly more to under. Wolves have been very disappointing in terms of results, but the play has been, I thought, fairly good for a lot of the season. They've been conceding a ton of goals late, have been making some really bad defensive decisions, and this is going to be a big test for them. The crowd will be there, crowd will be supportive, and that's a huge, huge deal. And also, I feel like Manchester City is not the strong club that they used to be in the past. At least they're still strong, but they're not the strongest in the world by leaps and bounds. I think Wolves, they've added some attacking players, and that really hasn't impacted their defenders making huge mistakes. I expect that's a sort of thing that could be ironed out over a 2-week window. All Manchester City players have gone across the globe. So Ederson, their goalkeeper, playing in Brazil, and plenty of other players going all out elsewhere as well. Savinho, I think, as well. But I think Wolves are of interest to me, getting that 1.5 goal, also to under 3.25. I think if you're playing one, you probably play both and hope that you can keep both inside the number. But a good chance you might get one if Manchester City win 2-0 or something like that. Manchester City clean sheets have been less, I think, prevalent over the last few seasons, but I think Wolves are going to be really, really fighting hard in their own end. And we'll see what happens. But I think that's a very interesting home underdog and under situation that I think are correlated and work very well together. Last but not least, on Sunday, we have Liverpool hosting Chelsea. Currently, Liverpool, 1-goal favorite. All the juice on Chelsea on the road. Over under is 3.25. Juice really heavily to over. So we might see this climb to 3.5. I certainly understand why that would be, because Chelsea have been scoring a ton of goals. Liverpool are known to score. But I still feel like there's a lot of value, and I've had a lot of success going against Liverpool and really betting against their offense so far this season, if not playing underdogs against them, playing unders in matches that they're in. At Anfield, they certainly will probably be hard to score against. Virgil van Dijk had the match at Germany off, at Germany off because he was suspended for taking a red card, I believe, double yellow in the first. So good to have him rested, and that will certainly be important. But Chelsea can score goals, and I think that's a problem for any team that's getting a full goal of insurance. I might like that a little bit more than I like under, just because if Chelsea's going to score on the road as a 1-goal underdog, and that's certainly going to threaten any sort of under the total type of number. I don't know that I trust Chelsea enough to win on the road here, but I've been really impressed with their new manager, and I've been really impressed with the development. And it seems like Todd Bowley, despite all the jokes, maybe even on this podcast, betting the pitch on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube at @thereal_Drew Warner, might have been a little bit slighting. I basically was making money betting against Chelsea every week, it felt like, for a long time. But they've improved, and I like the future for the Chelsea Football Club. So I lean to under 3.25 and also the +1. I think I like the +1 more right now than the total at the moment. And moving to Monday, we have Nottingham Forest hosting Crystal Palace. Currently, Forest a 1/4 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Crystal Palace on the road. Over under is 2.25. Juice more to the over. So Nottingham Forest, I feel like, has probably been the surprise team in the Premier League so far this season. The win at Anfield, doing great at keeping teams out of their goals. So I'm very interested in under 2.25 in this one. Looked at the Chelsea line. Oops, that 3.25 would be very nice, but probably be very juiced to say the least. Crystal Palace has been, I think, one of the biggest disappointments, especially how they played coming into or finishing last season. It certainly have not been the same type of start. I'm a believer in Alva Glasna. I think that Crystal Palace, away from home, their defense suffers for sure, as does their offense, though. I think that all points toward under 2.25. And I do have some interest in Crystal Palace just because I don't really trust Nottingham Forest to score goals. Chris Wood somehow finds a way into the net every week. I don't know how it happens really, but it seems to somehow, some way. I don't know why, or really, I don't think it should, but it does. And, it's just one of those things where I guess you either decide to buck the trend, which I would by playing by playing Crystal Palace here. But I think there's a good chance it's a low scoring matchup, and goalless draws are my favorite thing when betting a soccer match. So now it's time for the ultimate best bet pick from the English Premier League before I get to the other four top five European soccer leagues and pick one game from each of the matchups. You can find it on YouTube at the real underscore G Warner and the same on Instagram at the real underscore G Warner. I'll go Brentford at Manchester United under 3.25 goals is my best bet from England. We'll now move to Spain for La Liga. We have a Friday match today, which is, I think, hopefully good for all y'all because you can get my take on it way before the match starts at 2 p.m. Central Time here in Dallas, Texas. Alaves host Real Valladolid on Friday. Valladolid currently a 1-goal underdog. Over-under is 2.25, and it's used pretty heavily to over right now. So Real Valladolid, newly promoted side. Alaves promoted 2 seasons ago. Alaves with an incredible run. I think finished in the top half last season, or maybe finished 10th. Which is a great deal for them, especially as one of the expected relegated teams or relegation candidates coming into last season's La Liga campaign. Jornada, if you speak the language. Real Valladolid are in that same type of camp this year, and their inability to avoid conceding late goals has been a big problem for them, and certainly looks like they will be relegated like most of the newly promoted sides, unfortunately. In this matchup, seeing Alaves a 1-goal favorite is a surprise. Though I was also surprised to see them play a high line against Barcelona in their match before the international break. That didn't go very well. It probably will go a lot better against Real Valladolid, but I also don't know if Alaves want to take that many chances. And I expect Luis Garcia Pimienta. No, sorry, that's a different. I think it's just Luis Garcia. Pimienta is the Oscar Pimienta, I think is the manager for Sevilla. My bad. Anyway, Luis Garcia. He's going to do his best to, I think, improve their defense from a really bad showing, though Barcelona certainly has a lot of finishing at the top of the spear with Robert Lewandowski, more so than Real Valladolid, who have been trying to figure out what the heck to do to score goals. And really, I think the biggest issue is for Valladolid defensively. For that reason, I think the full goal of insurance is too big for Alves to lay. They're better than Valladolid. They can certainly win this match 2-0. But I think there's, at least for me, a lot of interest in coming back from international break. Alaves certainly with a lot of practice time. Same for Valladolid. Though Darwin Machis was playing for Venezuela in South America. I don't know. That probably zaps a right winger, or at least a wing player, maybe outside midfielder from Valladolid starting lineup. But I guess he hasn't been starting this whole season. With that said, I think Valladolid getting that full goal of insurance is of interest. I also like under 2.25. That's probably my biggest interest on this matchup. And we might see 2.5, which feels high for a La Liga matchup. We've been seeing a ton of overs in La Liga so far this season, but the betting market has not budged, and I'm not budging either. I still think this is a low-scoring league that will not see 3 goals as often. It will see 2 or less moving forward the rest of the season. Move next to Athletic Club Bilbao hosting Espanyol in the early matchup on Saturday. We have Athletic Club a 1.25 goal favorite. All the juice on Espanyol on the road. Over under is 2.5, and the juice is split both ways. Athletic Club. We'll see about the health of Nico Williams, their goalkeepers at large at all. And really in a San Mamés that gets a ton of credit where doesn't really see a ton of goals very often. They also failed to score 3 penalties in their last match before the international break on the road at Girona. I laugh when I say it out loud because Girona ended up scoring a 98th minute penalty to win, to kill my under, which was absolutely brutal. Amazing to even have 4 penalties conceded and still have a chance at a late penalty save, which went off the backup Athletic Club Bilbao's goalkeeper's glove and into the top of the net, roof of the net, almost was saved for a 4th. But welcome to the penaltitos of La Liga that have been really problematic, and they've been doing a good job of staying away from that. But most of the penalties, I think, were deserved, but certainly the first one was not, and the last one was very questionable. Unfortunately, that's once the VAR gets involved and Spain is looking to score goals, I think, is the way it seems like it. They let everything go in the middle of the field, but as soon as you even breathe on someone in the box, there's a penalty given, it seems. And that's problematic for playing unders, as you see on this at the real underscore G Warner betting account. Unders have been taking a lot of brutal beats, brutal bets. They've been good bets, I think, in general, but the brutal beats have made the endings a lot worse, and including 2 of those on Thursday. But fortunately, we're back to a soccer card that hopefully will avoid some of those, and we get to see some slow returns from the international break. With that said, Espanyol, I think will do their best to play defensively and try to spring counters. I think Athletic Club will be wise to that and will not let that happen. So, well, I'm interested in any sort of team going into San Mamés, despite the expectations and reputation of a cathedral in Spain. I think we see a low goal scoring output from the home team, which makes me interested in the road underdog getting a goal and a quarter and also under 2.5. We move next to Osasuna hosting Real Betis. Currently, Osasuna a pick'em with all the juice over unders 2.25, juice more to the over. Real Betis have been, I mean, they're one of the biggest clubs in Spain, have followers everywhere, supporters, whatever you want to call it. Should have a pretty good showing in Pamplona, even though I think the Basque Country and Andalusia are so far away from each other, having been to both. It is a long trip, probably a 8-hour train ride, something like that. I think it's 2 or 3 to Madrid and then 3 to Sevilla, so maybe 6. With that said, I think Osasuna have been a great home team. A lot of it is because they've been horrible away from home, and I don't really trust Osasuna to score goals. They always seem fortunate. Real Betis as a slight road underdog, I think is overstating how they've played, and I think speaks to maybe their popularity in betting markets, because they certainly haven't deserved it. Got clean sheet away after conceding a penalty and a loss in El Gran Derby in Sevilla, on the road at Sevilla, across the town, just before the international break. And I think that made Pellegrini like 0-12 or something like that against Sevilla, or for 12 and winning those matches in his tenure at Real Betis. There's pressure on Real Betis right now. They're playing in Conference League or whatever and not doing great there as they try to, I guess, balance the two competitions. This one's clearly more important to them, but I think it's going to be a rude awakening on the road at Osasuna, one of the toughest and one of the louder places to play in La Liga. I'll go under 2.25 in that matchup, as I feel like there's going to be very little scoring in that one right there. Move next to Girona hosting Real Sociedad. It's like where they're, I don't even know what this is, but certainly has shrunk in the wash, even though I try not to dry it. Girona pick them right now with all the juice over unders 2.25, juice more to the under. Now, Real Sociedad have been one of the best up and coming clubs in Spain, but can't score goals. And that hasn't changed. It did somehow get a miraculous outside the box equalizer late against Atletico Madrid before the international break started, which hopefully will keep Imanol Alguacil around, as I think he's a good manager. But the results certainly have not been there since they won a Champions League group that featured Inter Milan and Benfica. Now they go on the road to Girona, who have been really suffering from playing international football or continental football, and balancing that, as they can't train during the week, is pretty much what their manager said, and we've certainly seen it on the pitch. I'm interested in Real Sociedad as they climb to an underdog, but at pick'em, I don't want them because I just don't think they can score goals. So if they can't win, there's no sense in betting a pick'em. At a quarter of a goal, I'm more interested. But my biggest interest right now is under 2.25. Move to the last match on Saturday. Celta de Vigo hosting Real Madrid. Currently, Celta a 1-goal underdog at home. Over under is 3. More juice on Celta's side and a ton on the under. Might see this fall to 2.75. So I think that's probably unlikely. We'll see, of course, by the late match day, what I expect a lot of money to come in. And actually, we've been seeing an initial 2.75 climb to 3, and we've been seeing more and more money hitting the over, which maybe is a reference to Kylian Mbappe returning after not playing for France in the international window. But ultimately, this is the big question: is how well do Real Madrid play? I feel like they'll be a better side without Mbappe, but with both he and Vinny Jr., I feel like they're still trying to work out where to play, how to play, and unless Vinny Jr. is uncorking a screamer from outside the box, a Golazo, as he did against Villarreal to cover the spread, barely, as a 1.75 goal favorite that barely had any sort of attacks on the net for the entire matchup. They had a deflected goal from outside the box from who else but Fede Valverde, who just does that every week, it seems. But that's not really a great situation for a big favorite. It's 1-goal favorite. Of course, away from home might even be a little bit more valuable because they're not laying the 1.75 or 2 at such, as they would at the Bernabeu. But Celta Vigo, they had a really great start to the year, won a bunch of home matches, started 2 back-to-back home games, and that was huge for them. This is their toughest. Maybe you could argue Barcelona with their start to the season might be tougher, but same type of level here. Celta should have a huge crowd. Definitely a lot of Madridistas traveling in, or likely in Celta de Vigo, like living in Vigo and west of Spain, just wearing the Real Madrid kits because they prefer them to Celta de Vigo for all the winning and such. I think I'm most interested. I mean, I do like the home underdog for sure. That's probably my biggest interest in this one, +1. I also like under 3 because I think there's still a lot of value in betting against Real Madrid. They're a great side. They have a ton of expectations, though, and it's above where they performed so far this season. I don't think that's going to change in one road match after everyone was scattered across the globe playing in international window matches all over that said globe. Moving to Sunday, Mallorca hosting Rayo Vallecano. Currently, Mallorca quarter goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 1 3/4. Juice very heavily all the way to over. We've seen this kind of vacillate between 1 3/4 and 2. I want under 2 in this matchup, and I'll be looking for that to come back. In the meantime, I also like Rayo getting a quarter of a goal, and it looks like we'll climb to at some point we'll get to full half of a goal, which means Rayo go on the road, get a result, and you win. Mallorca just not really trustworthy to score goals. Could be one of those scenarios where you play under 2 and that +1/2, hope for a goalless draw, hope for 1-1, and Mallorca might win 1-0, but you'll get out of there with just juicing out, splitting both. Not the worst scenario there. I think there's a good chance that Rayo can get a result on the road. So 1/2 of a goal is very important, though I certainly understand if you want to sell that. If you want to, I guess, sell to get better juice on the +1/4. I don't think it's impossible for Rayo to win on the road at Mallorca, but it's been a very tough place to play for everyone, including Real Madrid, who are not able to win there as a pretty big favorite in the opener. Moving next to Atletico Madrid hosting Leganés. Currently, Atleti a 1 1/4, 1.25 favorite with all the juice, headed towards 1 3/4, and it's got to stop at 1.5 first, though. Over under is 2.5. Juice very heavily to under. Leganés have not been able to score. They brought in Sebastian Aller on loan from Borussia Dortmund as a big surprise, but he has not really taken off. Leganés, Jeffrey Lunau, formerly of the Houston Astros, GM, and kind of got fired in disgrace during the cheating scandal. But he's bought Leganés and is trying to use his kind of mathematic models, whatever, to build the team. Got them back to the Primera División or to La Liga, and it's going to be a big fight for them to stay in the league because they didn't really spend much money. We'll see what they do at the international break, and of course, adding Aller was something, but I think the interest for me here is in backing the under 2.5. I don't really want to trust Leganés to score away at Atleti, which does unfortunately mean that as they fall behind, they have to push out, and that puts them under even more pressure to defend late. That's not a great scenario, though. Atleti have not been playing well. They've been honestly they spend so much money on their club, and it seems like the same type of situation. I don't think Craig Burley calling for Diego Simeone's firing is really it's not new, of course, and I don't think it really makes a ton of sense. But Atleti certainly have not taken off just yet. And international window, they had Sorloth playing for Norway twice, and Griezmann did not play for France, which was interesting. But there's a lot of Atleti players. Julian Alvarez playing for Argentina as well. So a lot to do for Atleti team that have been spread pretty thin over the last few weeks. Moving next to Villarreal hosting Getafe. Currently Villarreal a 3/4 goal favorite. All the juice on, or almost all the juice on Getafe away from home. Over under is 2.25, and choose very heavily to over. Now, Villarreal have scored a ton of goals this year, but this is a pretty low total for them, 2.25. We saw, I think, 3 3/4 on the road at Real Madrid, or 3.5 close last week or right before the international break. I think that's overstating the Villarreal offense. It's been good, but they've been missing some players. I don't really rate their, I guess, replacement for Nico Jackson and Barry. They've got a ton of goals from Ayose Perez, who's been very good, but has been out of the lineup. And Getafe are going to go be really physical and try to keep this match as low scoring as possible. I'm interested in under 2.25 right now. I think 2.5 would be more interesting because you get the full win on if it lands 2, but I don't think that 2.25 would be too small for me to play under here. I like that more than the side. I just don't trust the Getafe to score goals. If they do, that certainly puts a problem in the under, but also would be very difficult for Villarreal to cover, I think. Villarreal could certainly cover this and hit the over on their own, but I don't think Getafe will let that happen. There's a nightcap Sunday, Barcelona hosting Sevilla. Currently, Barca a 1.5 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over under is 3.25, juice slightly more to under. Sevilla are going to play Barcelona light. That's what Garcia Pimienta plays. That's what he did at Las Palmas and won a bunch of matches and had them in the top half of the table before their incredible collapse the second half of the last season, and still haven't won, I don't think, this season in La Liga, and look like they're destined to be relegated. I I think from Barca's perspective, I mean, Lewandowski did not start the second leg of the international break or second game there. We'll see about his status. I think he'll probably come back and play well. CC doesn't seem to miss matches, and Barcelona need him to score goals. They've been dealing with a ton of injuries, but they always do. And then just replaced with some incredible 20-year-old who's awesome. Thank you for the I guess, newcomers into the chat. If you got any questions you want to throw in there, please feel free. Got the comments are open. But anyway, I think Sevilla, they're not a side I want to back getting a goal and a half. I just don't really trust them, even though they are very confident going into the international break after winning El Gran Derby with a victory on a fortunate penalty call against Real Betis on a lucky handball in the box. I think my biggest interest here is under 3.25. And I feel good about that because Barca unders are really tough. I'll be real. Hansi Flick is playing the Bayern München style, and it's worked very well for Barcelona so far. We'll see if that gets figured out. But Sevilla under Pimienta and like he did as the Las Palmas manager, they're going to control the ball. They're going to keep it from Barcelona, and they're going to play the same style and make it hard for Barcelona, I think. So under 3.25 is very interesting to me in that matchup. I'll put that on my list more so than the 1.5 goal underdog that Sevilla are. Moving to Monday, Valencia hosting Las Palmas. Current Valencia, 3/4 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over under is 2.25. Juiced more to the under. Now, this is a big question. Can you trust Las Palmas defending? I'm not sure that I want to as a 3/4 goal underdog. Certainly a +1, I like it a lot more. And that would be a big time fade of Valencia, which I just really want to fade Valencia's offense in general. I don't think they can score as a 1 goal favorite. I think that's enough for me to probably buy in a road underdog who hasn't won in forever. I think this is a good chance we have another goalless draw after Valencia had one against Leganés heading into the international break. There's a lot of problems at Valencia with their ownership. They have wanted their owner out for feels like 10 years now. And I got to say, I just don't really see anything changing. And Valencia with the Rafa Mir issues off the pitch with some sort of sexual assault allegations, like there's a lot of stuff going on that they don't need at Valencia. And really, what looked like a really good defense and a young squad that was up and coming, kind of sputtered, failed, didn't really play very well at the end of last season and have not started out well and have been in the relegation discussion for a while, which is really, really difficult for really anyone involved at the club. I don't know if I want Las Palmas at 3/4 of goal, though I'm interested there, of course. I think my biggest interest on that matchup is probably in the under 2.25, and it's now time for the ultimate best bet from La Liga before I get to Italy and Serie A. And I'll go with Celta de Vigo, a 1 goal underdog at home to Real Madrid. Certainly a tough one, but I think there's a good chance that they hang in that match. Don't know if they win, but good chance we see a close match that if Celta Vigo do lose, maybe it is only by a single goal and you get out of there with a push. Though I think a draw, result, win are all in the possibilities, especially after all the players for Real Madrid went across the globe to play. Moving to Italy, we'll start Saturday morning. We have Genoa hosting Bologna. Currently, Genoa, a 1/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice on Bologna on the road. Over under is 2.25, juice very heavily to under right now. Genoa have not been anywhere near expectations. I mean, the Serie A markets coming into the year expected them to have no real concern, threaten for relegation, even though they just were promoted 2 seasons ago. That has not looked great, and they haven't been able to score goals. They basically had their best scorers leave for Atalanta and Fiorentina, plus their lost center back in the middle of last season to Tottenham Hotspur. So they've been picked pretty dry, and it's not been great. Bologna come in as a road favorite. That's probably not deserved because they've not looked great offensively. They've also been picked dry with their Champions League side. Somehow going to see how they survive, which I don't expect them to advance to the knockouts in Champions League, but we could see. At this point, I lean to the home underdog and to the under 2.25. I'm more interested in the under there by far because I just don't think their offenses can score goals. But I think Bologna is a road favorite with trouble scoring. I would love to see them climb to a half a goal favorite away from home because that means a draw will pay you a full bet. Moving next to Como hosting Parma. 2 promoteds coming in directly to this season. Como, a half a goal favorite, almost all the juice on Parma away from home. Over under is 3, juice really heavily to under. So Como, they spent a ton of money. Odd for newly promoted side to do that, but I guess they found some new money and owners came in a little bit wealthier than the previous ones, and they play right on the water. So there's a lot of win in all these matches. How does that really impact the soccer pitch when the ball is traveling on the ground so much? Probably not so much, but maybe for set pieces and for goal kicks. I don't know. I'm still working that into my math model of how big wind really impacts these type of things. But it's not really an enclosed stadium, so probably the elements do play more of a role. We'll see how that goes, and I guess it might be some cold matches there. You thought Stoke City on a Tuesday evening in Stoke City in a cup match was tough. We'll see about Lake Como with George Clooney looking over from his villa or something like that. Anyway, I think Parma, they've shown that they're going to play offensively this whole season. They're going to try to attack. That makes it over under a 3 in Serie A with newly promoted sides actually seem like it's kind of a bargain. I usually would want to go under 3 in every match. So we have one coming up just this next match in a second. I don't know really what to do with that one. I think I lean to Parma as a half a goal underdog away from home because they've shown that they can compete and they've shown they can beat really big clubs across the Serie A Peninsula. Parma used to be the a big club as well, but have fallen on recent hard times, getting relegated and spent a couple of years in Serie B. I think the big question is how good are Como? They're good, but I'm not sure that they're this good just yet to be a half a goal favorite to another promoted side that's shown something so far. But I don't think I've got much of a lean for the total. I guess it's way above what I made it, so I'll lean under 3. But I think there's a lot to point to Parma matches, just not really want to touch unders with them at all this season. Milan then hosts Udinese. Currently, Milan, a goal and a half favorite. All the juice on Udinese on the road right now. Over under is 3, as I already mentioned, slightly juiced to under. Now, Milan have a very attacking manager. Udinese brought in a new one, I think unknown from Slovakia of all places, and has had a really good start. Udinese were topping the Serie A table for a little while, but that has certainly changed since. Now they got a really tough trip on the road that they need to go to Milan and try to hang in this match. I think Udinese, when they're in a really tough run of form, actually won at Milan in San Siro last season. Not a huge surprise, at least from what I saw in San Siro last year. Milan just was very, very quiet, even in a big match, the rival coming in with Juventus at home. But this is a different type of scenario. Milan players, of course, were all over the globe playing, and that's going to impact how they look in this matchup. I do think Udinese is the side I want here at under as an underdog, 1.5, and I like under 3 that correlates there as well. Though Milan and Paulo Fonseca are certainly not a under team by any means. Big matchup on Saturday is Juventus hosting Lazio. Currently, Juventus a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Lazio on the road over under is 2.25. Juice very heavily to under. Now, Juve have been great defensively. They were good last year defensively and then brought in a really talented defensive manager in Thiago Motta, one of the other pieces stolen from Bologna within Serie A. From a Lazio perspective, I think they've been outperforming. They scored a ton of goals against Nice, and then looked pretty good coming from behind to beat Empoli. It's tougher, I think, and falling behind was not a good situation, but ultimately Lazio have been better. The big question is how does their offense perform against a side like Juventus? I think this will be a low-scoring matchup. I think Juventus gets what they want, and I think Forza Juve are able to do what they want at home as a serious title contender. They looked good with 2 victories, even one with 10 men in Champions League. But I don't think Juve are really a goal scoring side. I look to unders with them. And I guess to that direction, I lean to Lazio getting a half of a goal. It's very juiced at the moment, which feels expensive, but I think does kind of point to where the Serie A market believes this will be a tight match. Small total for a Lazio game with 2.25, but I lean to that under there on Sunday, or excuse me, on the late one on Saturday. Moving to Sunday of Empoli hosting Napoli. Currently, Empoli a 3/4 goal underdog at home with more juice on Napoli. Over under is 2.25, juiced all the way to over. I'm interested to see this number climbing. Napoli have been great so far after a very slow start, but with a home loss, I think it was to, or maybe it was a road loss to Verona, but still, Napoli look great. I'm interested to see if they climb to a full goal favorite away from home. Doesn't look like that based on the juice, but you never know in the early start on Sunday in Serie A. I think Empoli have been awesome. I hope that they haven't lost momentum over the international break, but I know that they don't have many players that will be going out internationally unless they're on the under 21 or 23 sides because they are very young and basically are built of loanees. I'm kind of amazed at how they've played so far to start the season, but lean to that 3/4 of a goal and lean to under 2.25, hopefully 2.5 before kickoff early in the wee hours here in the United States on Sunday morning. Move next to Lecce hosting Fiorentina. Currently Lecce, quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.5 with all the juice as well. Fiorentina have not really taken off under their new manager coming over from Monza. And still around, but the goals have not been flowing, and which is surprising because Monza were such an attacking team. I think Lecce are going to do the best to try to keep Fiorentina out of their net, and I think Lecce know that they are not able to score many goals. I lean to the home underdog, of course, as always, but I lean more to the under 2.5, and I think that's going to be probably a valuable number to get, though 2.25 is not too much of a difference as you win if two goals are scored, and you win more if less than two goals are scored if you play under 2.25, because you'll probably get plus money on that one. Moving next to Venezia hosting Atalanta, same 10 a.m. Eastern time or 9 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Central. I feel like been a long times or have been off. I don't know if they're preparing for some sort of time change and done it early or something. But anyway, Venezia currently a 3/4 goal underdog at home to Atalanta. All the juice on Atalanta. Over under is 2.75. Do slightly more to under there. Venezia, they've been pretty competitive, but are limited in scoring goals. I think as a home underdog, I'd want to see that full goal of insurance, which you might get at some point, but don't have it just yet. Atalanta can name their price in terms of how many goals they want to score, but I've not always been that great at scoring goals, to be frank. I think under 2.75 is my biggest interest in this one. Would love to see three here, though. I don't think we'll get it. Moving next to Cagliari hosting Torino. Currently Cagliari a pick'em with more juice than Torino on the road. Over under is 2.25. Juice pretty heavily to over right now. I might see 2.5 at some point. Torino not the same defensive side or ball possessing side that doesn't score much like they were under Ivan Juric as he's moved on to Roma, who we'll get to next. But Cagliari have not been able to score goals. They've got a firefighter in Davide Nicola as their manager, and he's great at keeping matches under the total, and I want to play unders with him every time I can. So under 2.25, pretty simple for me on that one. I don't know that Cagliari I want necessarily at a pick'em. We'll see if they move to a quarter goal underdog as a way to bet against the Torino offense. Moving next, last matchup on Sunday. Is Roma hosting Inter Milan. We do have a Monday match, so stick with me. Roma, half a goal underdog at home with all the juice on Milan, or on Inter, excuse me. Milan is playing Saturday. Over under is 2.75. Juice pretty heavily to under. Roma there's still the jury's out on Ivan Juric and how he's going to work at Roma. A lot of fallout, including a CEO, woman CEO, resigning after the sacking of Daniele De Rossi. Wonder if he'll come back as Roma manager and maybe will replace Ivan Juric. That'd be interesting, and it'd be a wild turn of events. But until then, Roma, as I just mentioned with Torino, they're going to try to possess the ball, and they've got better players than Torino did, so that should help Ivan Juric and should also protect their net against the Inter Milan side that want to score a ton of goals. The problem is Inter Milan are built to counterattack. That's how they want to do it. That's how they did it under Antonio Conte before he left because they weren't giving enough money to buy new players. And Simone Inzaghi kind of came in as the scab of the I guess the sit-in or whatever, the strike, I guess is the better way to put it. And has basically played the same type of style, though I don't know that is necessarily how he wanted to do it and how he did it at Lazio previously, but it's worked very well. They've been the best club in Italy and honestly one of the best in Europe and deserved a Champions League title a couple of seasons ago for outplaying Manchester City, but Rodri from the top of the box had other ideas. I think from a Roma perspective, they want to keep the ball and protect their net at the same time. I think it's going to be a very cagey match. I would love to see this get to 3/4 of a goal because then Roma, if they lose by a single goal, you don't lose your full bet. That would be of interest. I like the half of a goal at home right now and lean to under 2.75 is probably my biggest interest in that one. And then the last matchup of Serie A's calendar, the Giornata for this week, is Verona, quarter goal favorite at home to Monza. Over under is 2.25. She's really heavily to under and more juice on the Monza side right now. Verona were a cash cow second half of last season after selling all their assets, really, that they couldn't, and then somehow stayed in the league. But they have big issues scoring goals. And as a home favorite, that makes me interested in Monza, who have goal scoring issues themselves. So all things point to under 2.25 in that one, I got to say. And that's my biggest interest there. For my biggest interest for the ultimate best bet portion of the show, which will come just after two more leagues. Thank you for sticking with the 49 minutes we've been going so far. But I think the length is probably worth it. I'll go with that. Lazio Juventus under 1/2 goal under 2.25 goals. I like Lazio getting half a goal, but I'll go under 2.25 in Juve and Lazio is my best bet. Possibility for the ultimate best bet from Italy. We'll move now to France. So we do have a Friday matchup. We have Monaco hosting Lille. Currently, Monaco a half a goal favorite right now at home. A little bit more juice on Lille on the road. Over under is 2 3/4. Just a little bit more to over. Now, Monaco, not the biggest home field advantage of anyone, to say the least. Lille, of course, coming off their famous Champions League victory against Real Madrid, ending their I guess their unbeaten run, which was huge. Now Lille go and a road draw will cover the spread for them. I think that's a good possibility. They are not as strong, I don't think, as Monaco are in terms of scoring goals, but Monaco's defense is, I think, more questionable. I also feel like Monaco got really fortunate to get an offside goal, just completely ignored an attacker shielding the view and actually going for the ball in front of a Toulouse. Was it Toulouse or might have been a Rennes, excuse me, Rennes goalkeeper Steve Mandanda. But Monaco's not complaining. They've had some players go out on international duty, as have Lille. I think Monaco is a half goal favorite. I think speaks to their ability to score. I'd like to get more. I don't think we're going to get that before kickoff in just a couple hours. And over-unders, I feel like Monaco are an all-out offensive team. Adi Hutter is more defensive manager, I think, likes to counterattack more, but I think he's kind of fit the Monaco vibe, if you will. I don't know really what to do with this one. I lean to Lille getting at half of a goal and to the under 2 3/4. I just don't know that they're very close to making my card today on Friday. Moving to Saturday, early matchup, we have Stade Brestois hosting Stade Rennais. Brest hosts Rennes in the American or English version. Brest a pick 'em right now, but all the juice on Rennes away from home. Over unders 2.5, and it's juiced heavily to under. Now, Stade Brestois have not been great in Ligue 1, as I've kind of projected or predicted. But have been really awesome to start Champions League play. Maybe they'll stop playing the weaker Austrian sides. I think they played back-to-back in their first 2 match days in Champions League. That'll change, of course. But the nice part is coming off an international break where they don't have a lot of international players is they've been able to train, and this probably sets them up for the best performance that they can have. I love that setup, especially for a Rennes side that have really been far more talented in previous seasons, have sold a bunch of talent, not been playing very well. Dropped a match at home and really had a screamer Golazzo from outside the box, Wunder goal, if you will, covering as many languages as I can there, just to equalize, then conceded and lost to Monaco heading into the break. While Stade Brestois were able to win a match and get a late goal despite taking a red card on 10 versus 10. Dumb to take a red card when you're up a man, but happens, I guess, especially in the League of Talents, the Ligue de Talents, where there's not a lot of fully made professionals, fully baked professionals. But Brest at home I think this is a pretty big derby also. So crowd should be nuts. I think this is a Western France type of matchup in the rain, most likely, or Normandy or in that area. I think Brest are worth it as a home underdog. I think I like the pick 'em. I think I'll play that, but I'll wait to see that we get a quarter of a goal on the Pirates, Team Pirates, as they're called. Over under here is 2.5. I lean to under there as well. And I think that's a kind of more of a play on Rennes not being a goal scoring team as they have been in the past. Move next to Saint Etienne hosting Lens. Currently, Saint Etienne a 3/4 goal underdog at home with more juice on Lens on the road. Over under is 2.5, juice slightly more to over. Now, Saint Etienne have goal scoring troubles. They are a newly promoted side with more history than almost anybody besides Girondins de Bordeaux, who are basically not even a league side anymore, which would be a great buy if you have multiple millions of dollars or euros. I just am not one of those, unfortunately. And with blown saves from Emmanuel Classe, plus late defensive touchdowns from the Denver Broncos all on a Thursday night, certainly not helping in that direction. But Lens are a great defense. They are going to be able to probably keep Saint Etienne quiet, even away from home. They've had drastic road splits, and that's because Lens at home are awesome. Will Still, their new manager, is taking over from Franck Heiss, who moved to Nice, and he's more of an offensive goal scorer. But I feel like the structure of the team has kind of stuck, and we'll see how many goals Lens could score. I don't think it's looking great that they'll get multiple. So I like that Saint Etienne, especially if they move to a full goal underdog, but the juice is pointing that direction. I'm not sure it'll move all the way there. I think under 2.5 is of interest for me there as well. So lean to the home underdog and to under 2.5. PSG then hosts Strasbourg in the nightcap on Saturday. PSG a 1 3/4 goal favorite with more juice. Over unders 3.5. Juice more to the over. Now PSG are a side I'm looking at back in Champions League because I think that the fall off and the absence of Kylian Mbappe is a little bit overrated because I think PSG are still very talented and can and are capable. Luis Enrique, a former Spanish manager, Barcelona manager, is going to possess the ball a ton, and that's good for, to me, keeping matches low scoring because it's going to make it very hard. It's going to tire out the opposing team, which definitely helps PSG in their own offensive endeavors, but I think is going to make it harder for because PSG were so good on the counterattack under previous managers, and that's what they were great at. And they were lethal because the other teams would think that they were possessing the ball, moving up the pitch, and then would be stretched and immediately hit on a counterattack. I think that's better for XG. Probably lower XG will be created, but I think it's better efficiency numbers, I guess is probably a better way to put it, because XG is more of a total measure. Strasbourg, I really like, though. I feel like they've done a great job after getting the investment from Chelsea. They've basically become a Chelsea minor league team, and I think they're a team I'm trying to back as much as possible. The 1.75 is just too big, I think, for PSG. I want to say that they're a little bit underrated also in Ligue 1 play because of the Mbappe exit, but ultimately they've been winning this league for so long. You can always question how much interest they have. And this spread requires them to win by 2 goals, to take half of a unit, win by 3 to take my full unit. I lean to under 3.5 here as well because I think that correlates to playing the underdog. I think I'm more interested in the 1.75 though on Strasbourg because ultimately I think they are talented enough and can score goals. We saw an equalizer to draw 2-2 heading into the international break, I think against Lens. High scoring match was a bit of a surprise to me, but I think we'll see Strasbourg growing in the right direction throughout the rest of the season. And I hope they continue to be valued at this type of level because I'll be backing them every week like I have the last two, a win at home against Marseille and a home draw against Lens. Moving to Sunday, we have Le Havre hosting Lyon. Currently, Le Havre, a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-unders 2.75. Juice pretty heavily to under. Now, Lyon are starting to see some high totals. Their offense has been better. Their defense is always an issue, but I think it's improved, and Le Havre have no offense to speak of. So that's a big issue. We saw Kinkwe, who was sent off in their last matchup for Le Havre. We'll see about his availability because missing a center back for a very low budget side that hung around in Ligue 1 last season, which was kind of unexpected, though they were Ligue champion that played great defense. I think we see that again here. I'm interested in the home underdog, but I think I'm more interested in under 2.75 in that matchup in the early hours of Sunday morning here in the United States. Move next to Angers hosting Stade de Reims. Currently, Angers a pick'em. Reims with more juice right now. Over-unders 2.75, juice to the under. I don't know that I'm pronouncing Reims right. It's Reims. Apologies, my French is not perfect despite being there just a month ago. Angers, I mean, they're a newly promoted side that can score goals. That's not a great setup, though, because outscoring Reims is going to be tough because Reims are really good at scoring goals themselves. That's not a great matchup setup for over under 2.75. I feel like we could see a 3 here, though Juice is currently pointing to under. I guess I'll lean to the home underdog, but I think I need to get a quarter of a goal to have any sort of interest in this one, just because I don't really want to pick Austria with the risk that they draw and I get no money. Whereas a draw that does pay out some half of a bet does seem more interesting to me at a quarter of a goal. But we don't have it yet, so I will keep that off the list. Move next to Toulouse hosting Angers. Currently, Toulouse a 1-goal favorite. All the juice on Angers on the road. Over-under is 2.25. Juice really heavily to over right now. Angers, I don't really trust them to score goals. They find them somehow. It's like a blind squirrel, or as my great uncle used to say, rest in peace. A blind pig will often find a nut on a golf course when he finally hit the ball in the green. But I think the problem for Toulouse is just that they need to protect their net, but they should be able to score. This is all the pressure on Toulouse is a big home favorite. I guess that's the problem. Angers come in without much offense, without much defense. I'm not so scared about this one. I'm not scared either. And I don't really want to play the full goal of insurance, nor do I want to play an under here. So I'll move next to Nantes hosting Nice. Currently Nantes a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-unders 2.25, juice pretty heavily to under right now. And it should be because Nantes are a defensive side and they play really great at home. I think there's a good chance that Nantes win this match. Nice have not been that impressive under Frank Heist, hiring a heist even, if you will, from Racing Club de Lens in Ligue 1. I think Antoine Campoe is going to play a very defensive style, and they're going to keep this low scoring. And honestly, I think they can win this match 1-0, which would be perfect, and you'd win both. So Nantes plus quarter and also under 2.25 in that matchup. And last but not least, Montpellier hosts Marseille in what should be a fireworks shootout, old Western type of style in, I guess, the south of France. Montpellier, a three-quarter goal underdog right now with almost all the juice over under is 3, juice more to the over. I think the push on 3 is kind of nice for over. I'm not an over player, but Joe Dollar, here's your over. It's only taken 4 leagues to get to it. But this is definitely one where you expect to see goals. Montpellier can score, can't defend. Marseille score a ton of goals, especially away from home. I feel like they're better away from home, and that's usually entails scoring a ton of goals. So as weird as it sounds, I'll put Montpellier on my list over 3 goals, though I don't think anyone was expecting that, and hopefully everyone is still sitting on their rocking chair as they listen to as we hit the hour mark on this podcast, which will be all shortened to a 1 minute YouTube short and Instagram reel with my best bets for the ultimate best bets if you'd like to consume it this way. 5-2 last 7, trying to keep that going. As for my best bet from Ligue 1 in France, I'll go with Strasbourg under as a road underdog, 1.75 goals. Last but not least, we get to the German Bundesliga, which we do have a Friday match with Borussia Dortmund hosting St. Pauli. Currently, Borussia Dortmund a 1.5 goal favorite with almost all the juice over unders 3.25, which is pretty heavily to under right now. Dortmund have been awful. I think that's as easy to say it. Shouldn't even be in Champions League, but the expansion of Champions League enabled them to get an extra spot from Germany. Without that, they wouldn't be in it, even though they did make it to the Champions League final. They seem to be like a cup team right now to me, which is kind of what everyone said about Manchester United, disappointing, but they are far from the potential leadership of the German Bundesliga. And St. Pauli come in after winning the Schweizer Liga. Almost said Ligue 2. Oops, that was France a second ago. Scroll back if you want to see more French stuff. But St. Pauli, they've been, I think, a newly promoted side that have been impressive. They're good at possessing the ball. They're not great at scoring, which I do think is a problem going away from home at Borussia Dortmund. But I think does play and help the under a little bit because the 3-0 Borussia Dortmund win still goes under. It's not really what I'm looking for, but I think St. Pauli put up a bigger fight. And the big question is, do Borussia Dortmund concede, and when do they concede? Is probably the bigger question. St. Pauli have some issues with one of their wingers. I think in Saad, who's potentially going to miss this matchup. That's a big problem for them in terms of their threat for Borussia Dortmund. But Borussia Dortmund are going to play aggressively, especially at home in front of the yellow wall. I've been in it before. It's nuts. It's awesome. I kind of wish I was there for this Friday matchup. But St. Pauli, I think, are going to be a good, strong underdog. I lean to that 1.5 goals away from home. But I think I'm more interested in under 3/4 in that one. We'll move next to the big window on Saturday, 3:30 Deutsch time, where they want all their matches to be, but TV rights have changed that a little bit. And I got to say, still a big Bundesliga guy, despite a Roma scarf and a Real Sociedad kit or whatever shirt on with the logo, badge. I'm not kissing it because I probably can't stretch the shirt enough to do that. Thank you for shrinking, Mr. Cotton. But the Bundesliga is awesome. I think it's presented very well on ESPN Plus as well, especially, I guess, except when they have their outages. But we'll get to Bayer Leverkusen, first matchup on the list, hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Leverkusen a 1.25 goal favorite. Juice is split both ways. Over under is 3.5. Juice pretty heavily to under. Bayer Leverkusen are in trouble. They have taken 2-0 leads in multiple matches, conceded equalizers against Borussia Mönchengladbach in the opener. Did it last weekend to Holstein Kiel, which is going to look bad and probably has cost them the Meisterschale title and a second straight championship. Unfortunately, now in comes Eintracht Frankfurt, who were, I think, showed exactly how they'd play. I mean, brutal schedule going at home for Bayern Munchen and then on the road to Bayer Leverkusen, back-to-back matches. But we saw Eintracht Frankfurt a 1-goal underdog to Bayern Munchen, score a late goal, one of the few, I think it was only the fourth stoppage time goal that actually went in my favor this season compared to 21 against, which is unbelievable. And hopefully that ratio will change, though obviously betting underdogs, that will never be 50-50, but hopefully not. Let's see, pretty easy number there. Not 84% of them going the wrong direction. But Eintracht Frankfurt, they conceded possession. They're going to do the same thing today, I expect, at Leverkusen or on Saturday morning here in the United States. They are going to use the counterattack. They got pace. They got the ability to score. Omar Mamouche, the hottest striker maybe in all of world football right now. And I think he can certainly beat Lucas Radecki, who's had big problems, especially some big mistakes for Finland in his national team play. Leverkusen's defense and possession of the ball and dominance has protected him, but is not an asset that I think I'm afraid of. Frankfurt are going to concede probably because Leverkusen score every match, and Eintracht Frankfurt have not been great at defending. That makes the under 3.5 look less appealing to me, but I'm still interested in that 1.25 goal underdog away from home. Move next to Hoffenheim hosting VfL Bochum. Currently, TSG Hoffenheim a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3.25. Juice all the way to over. VfL Bochum have been horrible. I thought we're in a great spot heading into the international break to use their home field advantage, and did equalize after falling behind to VfL Wolfsburg, but ended up falling behind again and losing 3-1. So total died, as did the side. Now they go away from home where they've been horrible. We're really fortunate to stay in the Bundesliga after winning, after coming from behind after losing the first leg 3-0 against Dusseldorf. But Schweizer Liga sides will Schweizer Liga. I think Hoffenheim, big question about them. I mean, they've had a lot of club issues. Pellegrino Matarazza, the manager from America, the Columbia grad, could have gone to investment banking, instead wanted to be a Bundesliga trainer, which I guess has worked out fairly well for him. But this is a tough situation for Bochum to go in away from home against a team that can score. I don't like the setup, and I don't really want to play or touch them much at this point in the season. If you can't back them at home, I certainly can't do it on the road where they've been bad for years and years. Move next to Sport Club Freiburg hosting Football Club Augsburg. Currently, Freiburg a 3/4 goal favorite with the juice split both ways. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice almost all the way to over. Freiburg's offense has been very fortunate. Low XG last year, and under Christian Streich, they took a ton of shots and tried to convert a few of them. I don't know that's the same thing is going to work here, but they're a lot better defensively because they actually have defenders that are playing defense as opposed to using like very, very green and young players like midfielders, central defensive midfielders to play center back in the Bundesliga. It did not work for them last year, but they don't have to worry about this year so far. That's huge for them. And Football Club Augsburg have been shipping goals left and right, and I'm surprised. I wonder if the incredible counter press that was brought in by their new manager, hired somewhat into last season, if that's been figured out, because it's been not working and they've always had problems defending as well. So I think from this perspective, I'd love to bet against Freiburg giving away 3/4 of a goal because they have to win by 2 to take your full bet. But they could do that, and Augsburg's defense has not been good enough. They are pretty bad away from home usually, so I think that's a match I can stay away from. Moving next to Mainz 05 hosting RB Leipzig. Currently Mainz a half a goal underdog at home, or juice on Leipzig on the road. Over under is 2 3/4, and it's juice all the way to over. Now, Leipzig unders have been very profitable so far this season in the Bundesliga, and really I think it speaks to I almost feel like Leipzig score better away from home than they do at home because they've not been scoring well at home, and the expectation is for them to score a bunch. They've had their usual Champions League leads that they surrender, unfortunately, especially away from home. But Mainz 05, they're going to play aggressively. They're going to go right at you, come at you like a spider monkey, if I can quote some movies here from the United States and talking about German football. But ultimately, I think there's going to be some problems finding tools in this matchup, or goals in German. I think Mainz getting a half of a goal at home is of great interest to me. I like under 2 3/4 as well. We might get 3. I think we will before kickoff on Saturday morning here in the United States. Move next to Borussia Mönchengladbach hosting Football Club Heidenheim. Currently, Gladbach a half a goal favorite at home. The more the juice over just 2 3/4. Juice all the way to over. And Gladbach are a terrible road team, but they're at home here, so that's huge. Heidenheim have been really not expected to do anything. Newly promoted, we're supposed to get relegated. I think we're relegation favorites heading into last season, and LOL at the Bundesliga, they finished in a Europa Conference League spot. They don't have Conference League until Thursday, so they've been able to train, don't have many international players at all, especially they sold a bunch of their best players to other teams, but rinse, wash, repeat. They've just filled those gaps, and have played pretty well so far to start the season. Now they go on the road to Gladbach, which is going to be a tough situation for them, but Gladbach's been better at home just because they've been so bad away from home that I'm not really sure they're great. And I'm not really sure I'm afraid to fade Mönchengladbach, even though they've been getting healthier over the international break. We'll see what the status of Alassane Plea, who's important to their front line, but I just don't trust Gladbach to score much. So give me Heidenheim, a half a goal underdog on the road, and I lean to under 2 3/4, which looks like it might hit 3. as well, similar to the movement I'm expecting in the Leipzig match. Thank you for more of you coming in. If you've got any comments, questions, go ahead. Yash Kulkarni, thank you for coming in. Hi, doesn't look like a question, but I appreciate you showing up, and I appreciate your support of Betting the Pitch podcast. Get more coming in as well. Thank you so much. More things come in here. If you want me to touch on something a little bit more in detail, happy to do so. But thank you for coming in. Really love it. And maybe this Friday morning window is a better time to do it. Move to excuse me, not done Saturday. We still have the top spiel. My bad. Got distracted by all the love from the viewers. Appreciate that. Bayern München, they are a 1.5 goal favorite at home to VfB Stuttgart. More juice on Bayern right now. Over under is 3 3/4. Juice pretty heavily to under. Bayern München have been really bad defensively. I don't think Vincent Kompany's style is going to work very well for them, but we'll see. Stuttgart, on the other hand, they played this match against Bayern München last season and got caught being naive. Thomas Tuchel famously conceded possession, which is not a Bayern thing to do. And Stuttgart were caught on the counterattack and lost the match in a blowout fashion. I think they've learned from that. I think they've gotten seasoned from Champions League play already, and that's huge for them. Stuttgart, a 1.5 goal underdog, I like away from home, though that certainly seems a lot smaller as in a high-scoring matchup with the total nearing 4. I lean to under there, but I don't think I want to play any unders with Bayern München whatsoever. Moving to Sunday, we have Holstein Kiel hosting Union Berlin. Union, a quarter goal favorite away from home with more juice, almost all the juice. That's a surprise. Over under is 2.5, juice to the under. I mean, Holstein Kiel has been horrible. I don't trust their defense. I don't trust their offense. So I don't think I want much to do with their home underdog, but I do lean to under 2.5 because that's a big total for Union Berlin. We did see them go over in their home win to Borussia Dortmund in the match before the international break, but that happens. And I think for my biggest interest, I'll play the Holstein Kiel under 2.5 in that matchup. Last but not least, we'll go to VfL Wolfsburg hosting Werder Bremen. Currently, Wolfsburg, a 0.5 goal favorite at home right now. All the juice on Werder Bremen on the road. Over under is 2 3/4, and it is juiced pretty heavily to over, but not against that much, but more juice there, certainly. I'm interested in Werder Bremen getting a 0.5 goal, though it doesn't look like that'll stick around. I lean to under 2 3/4 there as well. Just more interested in being against the Werder Bremen, or excuse me, against the Wolfsburg offense. I don't really trust it, is I think my easiest way to explain kind of where I'm sitting. And for my best bet for the German Bundesliga on this episode, I'm going to go with Eintracht Frankfurt getting a goal and a quarter on the road at Bayer Leverkusen. I just feel like Leverkusen have shown us who they are at this point, and we need to take them at face value and understand that they are not going to defend, unfortunately. And so now it's time for the ultimate best bet. Before we get there, thank you for all the support. All of you have come in to the live show on Friday after morning. I'm going to try to stick to this time frame moving forward if possible. And of course, we'll be tweeting all weekend with my plays. If you want direct access, go to patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot for all my plays, leans right up across all sports. Baseball, the NFL is a good start to the season. Of course, college football and the podcast with pregame.com is out there, recorded on Tuesdays. And of course, the soccer stuff will be on there in mass, as I'm sure everyone will see. If you're not subscribed, please do so at the real_G Warner on YouTube. Same for Instagram, where you're watching the reel I'm about to record with the ultimate best bet. And of course, if you leave a 5-star review on Betting the Pitch on podcasts on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, that'd be huge for the search rankings and hopefully get some more exposure for the show. And my other co-hosts will certainly appreciate that. If you leave a 5-star review, anything you write in there, I will read. And if it's related specifically to one of my co-hosts, I'll have them read it as well. Try to get in the game and try to get everyone as involved as possible. So now it's time for the ultimate best bet. So let's get into it. Hey, this is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet for this October 18th through 21st top 5 European Soccer League show. I go through each of the bettable games on the top 5 soccer leagues across Europe. And then I pick out my favorites from each of the leagues, and then I chop them into a 1-minute video on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, and on YouTube, of course. And if you want to follow me, make sure you hit the Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner. From the English Premier League, I like Brentford under 3 1/4 goals. In La Liga in Spain, I like Celta de Vigo getting a full goal of insurance from Real Madrid. In Serie A, I like Lazio under 2 1/4. In Liga in France, I like Strasbourg getting 1 3/4 goals. And in the Bundesliga in Germany, I like Eintracht Frankfurt getting 1 1/4. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, I'm going to stay in English. England. And I'll go with Brentford under 3.25 goals. I don't believe Manchester United can score. They're a big favorite at home, so I like Brentford as well. And the 1 minute, first minute goals from Brentford will dry up eventually. Go under 3.25. Manchester United hosting Brentford in the English Premier League this Saturday. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you in some future episodes. And of course, make sure you follow at @the_real_G_Warner on YouTube and on Instagram for these 1 minute reels. And they'll be out hopefully before game time with a bunch of time so you can see them and remind, I guess, who you're playing this weekend.